Hi everyone, this is Mrs. Mancuso. I am going to go through an exam with you. So this is the January 2018 exam. If you do not have it printed and ready in front of you, stop the recording right now. Go to Google, search Regents Chemistry Exams, and look up the January 2018 exam and either print it out or have the screen open in front of you. All right, ready to roll. Which statement describes the location of protons and neutrons in an atom of helium? So they always ask this question first. In the nucleus are the protons and the neutrons. Outside in the orbitals are the electrons. So protons and neutrons are in the nucleus. Given a list of atomic model descriptions, which list represents the order from the earliest to the most recent? So now I want to look at this ABC. Electron shells outside the nucleus, that is a very current thought. Hard indivisible sphere, that's really old, believing that they were just like cannonballs. Mostly empty space is Rutherford's idea when he figured out the location or the presence of a nucleus. So that would come second, and then last would come A. So B, C, A. Which list represents the classification of the elements nitrogen, neon, magnesium, and silicon? All right, so we need to grab our reference tables. It's important you've got a reference table, scrap paper, and calculator out alongside you to do this. So nitrogen is in group 15. It is a non-metal. So right away I can cross off 1 and 4. And then neon is in group 18, so it's a noble gas. So there's my choice. It's got to be number 2 because neon is a noble gas. Magnesium is a metal, and silicon is got 2 sides touching the staircase, so it's a metalloid. In the ground state, all atoms of group 15 have the same number of. So group 15 is one of the columns. So they all have the same number of valence electrons, which makes them all behave with similar properties. What is the chemical formula for ammonium sulfide? So ammonium is a strange name. So go to table E if you're not sure what something is, and the name will be right there. So ammonium is NH4 with a plus. And then sulfide. Well, sulfide is not on table E, and ending in an ide is just a normal element thing. So look up S, and S is a -2. Now I need to crisscross the 2 down there and the 1 there. So I put NH4, my team, in parentheses and show that I want 2 of them, and then sulfur. So there it is. Which formula is empirical? The word empirical means reduced, so I want the simplest formula. A 2 and a 4 could be reduced. There's my answer. NH3 cannot be simplified any more than that. A 3 and a 6 could be reduced. A 4 and a 10 could be reduced. All right, chemical properties can be used too. Well, you can't use a chemical property to tell you the temperature. You can't use a chemical property to tell you the density. Ooh, you could definitely use a chemical property to tell you between 2 different compounds. So compounds react differently, so that's due to their chemical property, or that due to what they're made up of, they will react differently. Neutrons, you can't tell neutrons apart, really. Ice, which is water solid, is classified as, it's not ionic because it's not a metal with a nonmetal. It is molecular. It's covalent. Ice is pure, so it's not a mixture. Which phrase describes the molecular polarity and distribution of charge in a molecule of carbon dioxide? So they're asking me about the polarity of the molecule, so I should draw it. Carbon dioxide looks like this. It is a very even distribution of charge, and it is very symmetrical. So if it has no pull, it's non-polar and symmetrical. Which element tends not to react with other elements? The elements that don't react are the ones that have the full octet, the ones that are noble gases. So helium is a noble gas. Given the equation representing a reaction, which statement describes the changes that occur as an oxygen molecule is produced? So I want to remember that saying barf, broken, absorbed, released, formed. So I'm forming a molecule, so I want to release energy. So energy is released as bonds are formed. There it is. If you always use that saying, you're always going to get that one right. Which term represents the strength of the attraction an atom has for electrons? So an atom's ability to attract electrons in, that's called electronegativity. Compared to a 15-gram sample of copper at 25 degrees, a 25-gram sample of copper has. All right, so picture in your hand, you got 15 grams of copper in your left hand and 25 grams of copper in your right hand. It's pretty much the same thing, just one side's heavier. So they're definitely going to have the same density, and they're definitely going to have the same chemical properties. One just has more mass. Which substance cannot be broken down by a chemical change? If you can't break it down, it's on the periodic table. You're talking about an element. Ammonia is not on the periodic table. Ethanol is not on the periodic table. Tungsten is. Water's not. So go pick an element if you can't break it down chemically. The kinetic molecular theory states that all particles of an ideal gas are. All right, when I think ideal gas, I always want to think spread out. So colliding without transferring energy, ooh, when they collide, they do transfer a little bit of energy. In random constant straight line motion, yes, that describes. Think of it like a screensaver, and the little gases are going boing, 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 boing. That's how it works. All right. Next one. Which sample of a gas has the same number of molecules as 6 liters of this gas? Well, if I have 6 liters of this gas, I got to go for 6 liters of another gas. Same volume will give you the same amount of molecules. They might not weigh the same, but it's going to have the same number of molecules. A chemical reaction is most likely to occur when the colliding particles have the proper, think high five. In order to have just the right high five, you got to have just the right amount of energy, and it's got to be in just the right position. That's orientation. The energy absorbed and the energy released during a chemical reaction are best represented by. So a cooling curve is just adding heat with the plateaus, and a heating curve is just, oh, sorry, that was taking away the heat. This is adding the heat. A kinetic energy diagram, that's just showing me temperature. That's the same thing as heating and cooling. So basically 1, 2, and 3 all gave me the same answer. A potential energy diagram is like this. That's going to show me how much energy did I have at the start and how much energy do I have at the end. So that is definitely going to give me absorbed and released. All right, a catalyst increases the rate of a chemical reaction by. So when you add a catalyst, you do a new pathway. So it provides an alternate pathway, and that will decrease the activation energy of the reaction. Which formula represents an alkyne? Alkyne, you go to table Q, and it describes the general formula. So an alkyne has a triple bond, which means it's going to be CnH2n minus 2. There it is, choice 4. Which process involves the transfer of electrons? So oxidation is losing electrons, reduction is gaining electrons. So electrons are transferred in a redox reaction. Which change occurs at the anode? Anode is the anox. Oxidation is losing electrons, so loss of electrons. Which device requires electrical energy to produce a chemical change? So if you need electrical energy, you need a battery. That's an electrolytic cell. Voltaic cells do the reverse. They use chemical energy to make electrical energy. All right, which one is an Iranian acid? So acids donate H+, so I want to pick this one here that starts with an H+. This is ionic, and these are both bases. You could go to table K. It has HCl, which is just like HBr. Which laboratory process is used to determine the concentration of one solution by using a known volume of another solution of a known concentration? Okay, that's titration. If you're not sure, look at table T, and it's got MAVA equals MBVB. That's doing a titration. All right, which type of reaction occurs when H+ reacts with OH-? So that's an acid reacting with a base. That's neutralization. According to one acid-base theory, a molecule acts as an acid. All right, acids always have the same definition. They donate H plus in a solution. A base, however, has two definitions. It either is a metal with an OH that donates an OH minus, or it accepts an H plus and takes it out of the solution, making the pH go up. All right, in which type of reaction can an atom of one element be converted to another? That's called a transmutation. That's a nuclear reaction where you change elements. An unstable nucleus spontaneously releases a positron. So if you release a positron and it's spontaneous, that's just radioactive decay. That's just natural transmutation. Which phrase describes a risk associated with producing energy in a nuclear power plant? So a nuclear power plant, we're always worried about producing wastes that have really long half-lives. And if they have a long half-life, they're going to need long-term storage. All right, the next video, we'll go through the next part of this exam.